It's always a crapshoot.
No fatalities so far, but
Well, days early.
this is the perfect time to click the like button and subscribe to the channel because you're just not going to get great information like this from an enormous brain like Pat Brown unless you come right back here. Now, back to the episode. Pat, you don't have to worry about this because you're a young fella and you've got a lot of verve and vigor, or whatever that thing Kennedy used to say, vigor. But
Vim and Vigor.
I'm a very, very old man, as you know, which means retirement is on my mind. And it's also on the mind of the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, he's recommending or suggesting perhaps that the retirement age for air traffic controllers be raised by some amount. Yeah, that's a big deal.
They can, as it is now, and I do a little research once in a while. I have a book here at the house, just the one, but the U.S. Code, I believe it's Chapter 5, U.S. Code 8335, tells us that mandatory separation, that's what they call it. It's like a relationship thing. It's a mandatory separation. An air traffic controller shall be separated from the service on the last day of the month in which he becomes 56 years of age. Now, aside from that being blatantly sexist, because it says he, not he or she or whatever, it's like the FAA. You shall. There is no option. And the theory is performance degrades as you get older.
Well, that's what the theory is, and I don't know where that came from, Jamie. I mean, it could be an old wives' tale from or an old husband's tale, to be perfectly politically correct here. It could be it could be an assumption. I don't know. There's probably a study somewhere back 40 years ago, 50 years ago, or whatever, that showed some cognitive decline or the concern of some cognitive decline. I would probably question whether or not 56 is a good number, but it came from somewhere.
Well, the union, the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, is opposed to this, but that actually doesn't shock me because prior to 1959, there was no mandatory retirement for pilots. And in 1959, the FAA said 60 will be the number. If you become 60, you're now too dumb to do this. You must go home. And they stayed like that until 2007 when they upped it to 65. Interestingly enough, when they imposed that rule of 60, the Airline Pilots Association didn't endorse that for 20 years. And
Amazing.
then in 2007, they upped it 12 years before ALPA said, yeah, that's probably a good idea. So,
And now there's some talk, I think, about increasing it up to 67, if I'm not mistaken, and
yep.
and there's pushback on that as one might expect as well.
I was just talking to somebody about this because I understand the concern. As people get older, there can be cognitive decline, but you're still passing the first class. I think on both of these, both air traffic control and pilots, on the pilot side, it's a scheduling issue. If you're going to schedule a pilot who's over 65, schedule them with somebody who's under 55. Now you've got some built-in stuff. And on the air traffic control side, and I want to know what you think about this because it seems obvious to me, they're saying that there's a degradation of performance past 56, but about 20 of the busiest airports are under the 85% staffing level the FAA wants to see. It seems to me, Pat, and I'm just a neophyte, but if there's a fully staffed facility, my workload might go down and my performance capabilities are less of an issue. I wonder if there's a connection there.
Well, there certainly could be, and again, I don't know the internal workings of the FAA or ATC any more than you do, but perhaps there are non-controller jobs that people that are post 56 could do that don't require necessarily sitting at a screen for some number of hours a day with breaks and everything figured in. I'm coming out of this, from a totally ignorant perspective. I don't know.
Yeah, but I have a feeling technology could make that job more practical for people as they age, just like our cockpit has changed. When you and I started flying, an awful lot of the airplanes we flew had an ADF in there, so you could do an NDB approach. You never see one anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
people stepped up to LORAN. Woo! Now we've got GPS and we've got glass panels, and you put a hold in it, it draws a picture of the hold. Just follow the line. I have a feeling something like that will happen on the ATC side as well as they upgrade the technology. Because, as you and I know, and our recent guest Diana, who was an air traffic controller, they're not dealing with the latest 21st century tech in the tower.
No, I mean, can you imagine that somebody that learned how to fly in the maybe in the 20s and 30s and learned how to navigate with concrete arrows poured on the ground, or later than that, the new technology, the A&N radio range, what those people would think about following the magenta line today, and all the whiz bang technology that we have available in the cockpit. So there could be some good use for AI and some of the other newer technologies that are out there. It's just the issue, of course, is everyone knows the government moves at glacial speeds, and by the time some new technology is adopted, it's old technology. So
That's a great analogy. I really like that. And you mentioned the AN radio range, and for younger viewers who are under 100 and don't recall this, it used to be, instead of a VOR, there was a path, but on one side of the line you would hear dot dash for an A, and on the other side you would hear dash dot for an N. And if you were on the line, you'd hear so you had your headphones going on and you were steering based on what you were hearing. If that was the current state of technology, we wouldn't have intercontinental flight the way we do.
exactly.
Technology changes, the workload gets easier. Easy enough, in fact, that you could have a flight where both pilots are playing on their laptops and they fall asleep or get distracted and fly an hour past their destination. Yes, that happened.
Yes, that happens.
Well, I just think it's an interesting topic, and I appreciate you talking about. Clearly, we are too young to retire, even to think about it. But it is interesting that we have established retirement ages in aviation that many people in jobs outside of aviation, including government jobs with high positions, would find just totally intolerable. Why would I retire at 65? I'm 82, still going strong.
I have friends, Jamie, several friends actually, that have retired from the airlines at 65 and have gone on to fly 135 or even Part 91, big equipment, Gulfstreams, Falcons, things like that, all over the world.
Yeah.
And a couple of those, actually, one of those friends of mine uh, recently retired at age 76 from doing that. And the reason he retired, not because he wasn't capable, insurance.
Yep. And well, I've got friends in the same boat, and a lot of people who aren't in aviation don't understand this. They hear that retirement age of 65. There was a time, as a matter of fact, you may recall, I believe United would allow captains to bid an engineer line, and they
Yeah.
stayed with the airline, and they were at a lower rate of pay, but they got to continue flying. They got their benefits. And a lot of people retire from that 121 carrier, and as you say, they go to Part 91, and they're flying a King Air, they're flying a Citation, and like you, I've got friends in their 70s doing just fine with it. So, as long as you can pass the medical, as long as you're cognitively aware, and as long as you have the professionalism to ground yourself when you think there's a real problem, I think aviation is going to continue to remain a very safe mode of transportation with real professionals in the cockpit and in the tower.
Yeah, I think we just have to, drag our our overseers into the 21st century.
It's going to be interesting.
At some point, the folks that regulate this stuff are going to come kicking and screaming into the 21st century, and and take a look perhaps at the newest technology. And actually, I'm making light of it, but it's already being done. There's already talk in the current administration about a massive overhaul of the FAA and upgrading equipment and things like that, and it's overdue. And let's hope that the procurement process, easy for me to say, the procurement process and the design process and all of that kind of stuff can be streamlined in such a way that the new technology really is the new technology, isn't already years and years old by the time it's implemented. So we can always hope. Hope springs eternal.
Absolutely. I agree with you, Pat. I thank you for bringing your genius to this topic because it is an important one, whether you're in the airplane or in the tower or in the ARTCC Center. This is all going to be interesting as it unfolds. Tech will save us, or maybe not. Let's see what happens. Come on back to see us in the future. Pat, I'll see you next time right back here.
Adios.